All right, so good morning. And let's get started. So we'll have a belt or strap today. Here we go, as well as some blocks. And we will start lying down with the block under the sacrum and having your belt nearby. So that belt nearby-ish. And putting the block under the legs there as we come down onto our mat. Big inhale and exhale. And then lifting up, sliding the block under the sacrum, sliding the legs out to straight or straight-ish. Maybe pushing the hands on the block near your waist. Whatever little squinging around you want to do here. And then getting a little bit more organized, bringing the arms down alongside like the bridge pose, arms, maybe a little roll out with the upper arms, feeling a little lift in the upper chest. And making the legs parallel and maybe right together. Reaching away through the heels, a little drawing up through the abdominal muscles, stretching yourself over the block. And then bring your attention a little more to your breath. Inhaling up into the lower belly on the top on the block there, the lower belly there between the two hip bones and the pubic bone. And exhale, pouring down through the legs, pouring down through the front of the torso. If you notice any tension in the face or the jaw or anywhere, see if you can let that go. And just taking another breath or two here. And then we will bend the knees, lifting up off the block, taking that out, rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And let's come up in a bridge pose, pressing down with the feet, lifting up from the backs of the legs and the gluteus maximus. Maybe interlocking your fingers underneath, really rolling out the upper arms. And another option is to bend the arms and take the hand to the fist there to the sacrum. This is one of those times my long arms are not useful because they're too long to fit underneath there very well. Anyway, here we are. Inhaling into the front of the body, exhale. Lifting up, deepening the bridge pose into that space. And then we'll roll ourselves back down, vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And sliding the legs out to straight. And then we'll bend the right leg in, pulling the thigh into the chest while we reach long through the left heel. And then getting your belt. And belt around the right foot, extending the right leg up. So we're just going to do this Supta Padangusthasana number 1 with the legs straight up. Couple more breaths here, breathing out through both legs. And then it will be an option to take the foot in the belt into the with the left hand and take it across to the side and Supta number 3. So today's default will be bending the right leg back down, reaching the right arm out to the side, pulling that right knee across to the left, rolling on to the outer left. Inhale and exhale. Feel that right arm through the front of the shoulder, out the fingertips. Maybe a little press down with the back of the hand into the floor. Coming back to the center and sliding that right leg out. Bending the left leg and pulling the thigh into the chest while we take a few breaths. Extending the right leg, opening up the front of that hip joint again. And then belt around the left foot, extending that left leg up, Supta Padangusthasana, number 1. A few more breaths here. And then if you really want to take that left leg across with the straight leg in the belt, go ahead and do that. Right, we will bend our left leg in, putting the left arm out to the side and pulling that left knee across to the spiraling up and out the top of the head. Reaching out through the left arm, maybe you can feel a little press of the back of the left hand into the floor. And back to the center. Sliding that left leg out next to the right. Take a stretch overhead with the arms for a moment. And then drawing the legs up into Supta Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, knees out to the side. Getting settled in there. You're pressing on the tops of the thighs there, trying to lengthen out the lower waist. And here we engaging gently with the shape that you're in, but mostly easeful. Inhaling into the lower belly, exhale, pouring out the inner thighs, out the knees, really feeling your breath again. And just a few more breaths here. And we'll slide the legs out to straight, stretch the arms up overhead again. And then making our way up to sitting. Here we are. Let's sit in Sukhasana with the crossed legs. And giving a little lengthen up, feeling space coming between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. There's still things that need a little squinging. Go ahead and do some squinging. And finishing up with that. Letting the hands come to rest on the knees. Inhale and exhale, bringing yourself to this moment, closing your eyes. Feeling for that balance of effort and ease in your body. We want to have a long and extended spine, but not with more effort than is needed. And maybe letting go from the tops of the shoulders, down the sides of the neck. And open the eyes, reaching out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. Let's breathe the arms up and down. So we'll just do once like that with both arms, shoulder blades in the back. And then I'm being the right left mirror. Let's breathe up through the right arm into a side bend over to the left. No, twisting up to the right, letting that right arm reach back on the diagonal for a moment. Opening up the front of the right hip joint, right shoulder joint, and then pulling over onto the diagonal left. And to center. And coming up, unfurling the spine vertebrae by vertebrae. Back up on top of the sitting bones. And we will change the cross of the legs. And let's do the side bend on the other side. Breathing up through the left arm, up and over, side bending to the right. And then a little twisting up to the left, letting that left arm extend, opening up the front of the left shoulder. And then reaching long to diagonal to the right. And to the center. Couple more breaths here in the forward bend. And then coming up, unfurling the spine vertebrae by vertebrae. Back up on top of the sitting bones. And let's come up and downward facing dog. So if you've got a block or blocks, putting them up kind of near the front of the mat. And then here we are, downward facing dog, walking the dog or anything else you want to do here. And then finishing up with it, whatever you're doing. And here we are in the best downward facing dog of this moment. And we'll lengthen forward to the plank. So we're going to be Asta Namaskar, knees, chest, chin to the floor. So if you need to come out of the plank sooner and set the knees down, go ahead. Anyway, here we are. holding the plank for a few breaths, stretching long and flat on the ceiling. And then we'll set the knees down on all fours. Big hinge up and back, pulling the crease of the hip joints up and back. Keep that pull up and back. Don't press the pelvis forward. Just shift the whole thing forward, shoulders over the fingertips. And coming down with the upper chest. And sliding up to the small cobra, squeezing the elbows in, pressing the shoulders down. And then lengthening down to the floor, pulling the sides back, center line forward. And let's take two more small cobras coming up, using more upper back muscles, a little less push with the hands. And then once again. And staying low with your nose just hovering above the floor there, but still working the upper back, squeezing the arms in. Let's reach long through the toes, and we'll lift our right leg, feeling the back of that right thigh engage the back crease of the hip joint, pulling up. Reach a little longer through the right toes, and then bringing the right leg down. Same thing, left leg. Reaching long to bring the leg up, and then feel along the back of the leg, the back of the thigh, that back crease of the hip joint, squeezing in, the gluteus maximus working. Reach a little longer through that left foot, and bringing the left leg down. Let's do that 2 more sets, and we'll add a little lifting of the upper body as well. So lengthen and lift, right leg, but make the leg your priority focus. And then lengthening down. And left leg. And lengthening down. And once more each side. And then we'll make our way back up to downward facing dog, coming up through an indulgent cobra if you want, with a little cat cow rippling. Well, let's take a little detour through child's pose. You want to come along with me there. And then there we all are in downward facing dog. And let's lift the right leg up. See if you can feel that pulling up with the back of the right leg, like you just had lying on the floor. We'll reach the right leg down, big toe to the left heel. And once again, doing that pull up, trying to consciously feel the back of the thigh, the gluteus maximus, the back crease of that hip joint working. Bending the knee dog at the high fire hydrant. And through to the lunge. And in this long, low lunge, we will twist to the right. We're reaching up through the front of the right shoulder, out the fingertips. And a big reach around with the right arm, bringing the left knee down in Jayasana, the kneeling line. And we'll breathe the arms all the way around and back up overhead. And namaste in front. Namaste in front, strong into the center. Then we'll straighten up the right leg into the pyramid pose. So lifting the left knee, straightening the right leg. You can turn your back heel in and ground it down for Parsvottanasana if you would rather. using whatever height blocks you need, adjusting the distance between the feet if you want. Actively pulling up through those leg muscles. So we're using our muscles to work on straightening the legs, not just waiting for them to stretch. And then pouring over that right leg and you out. And we'll lunge forward, walking the right foot a little over to the left, pulling the left knee under. So we come into Matse and Drasana. Deep breath. And we'll take a twist to the right. Inhale, lots of space. Exhale and twist. And then reaching back with the right arm parallel to the floor. Bringing that right arm up and over, and we're going to the Gomukhasana legs, pulling that right foot back, bringing the right knee down. And if this doesn't work, maybe staying in Matsyendrasana, or you could go to Sukhasana with the crossed legs. All right, so but your knees and hips are all right with it. Here we are, squeezed into the Gomukhasana a little bit tighter. Let's reach out through both arms and we'll equal pose the arms, right arm under, or else holding the shoulders. So we're both squeezing in with our crossed legs and arms, and then from the inside, gently pressing out against these bound up limbs. And then releasing the arms, coming forward for a few breaths. Coming up, let's disentangle our legs. Coming up into the forward bend at the front of the mat. Uttanasana, maybe using a block under the hands if the floor is kind of far away, or as much bend in the knees as you want. And we'll take a few breaths here. Pulling up through the legs, pouring down through the top of the head. Maybe a little swaying side to side if you like. And let's concave back halfway up. Even if you have the flexibility to keep your hands there on the floor, really let yourself draw up about halfway, working the back muscles, getting lots of space, and then pouring over. And we'll come all the way up to standing, big front body yawn. Pressing the arms down, long through the top of the head. Deep breath. And let's circle the shoulders just once to interlock the fingers behind. Squeeze the upper arms together, drop the shoulders down, lifting up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. And coming forward and hinging over. And we will release the hands. And a concave back, maybe doing the fingertip one if you have the flexibility this time. I think it's nice to do the extra big one at least once to really get that big extend and make the back muscles work. Anyway, here we go through the vinyasa or not, any version, downward facing dog. It's always an option to put that child's pose in along the way. And around we go with our left leg. Let's lift the left leg. Pulling up with the back of the thigh, squeezing into the back crease of that left hip joint. And reaching the left leg down, big toe to the right heel. And really feeling that pulling up with the left leg or trying to. Sometimes it can just feel like a kind of vague effort, but see if you can start to subtly refine that feeling as we bend our left leg, dog at high fire hydrant. And through to the lunge. A nice strong right leg as we take a twist to the left in our low lunge. And a big reach around, bringing the right knee down to come up in Vinyasa, the kneeling. Breathing the arms in a big circle all the way around and back up overhead. And drawing down the center line, namaste. And then maybe getting your blocks in, coming up in the pyramid pose with your back foot parallel, or maybe rotating the heel in and down for Parsvottanasana stance. And adjusting distances between the legs, heights of blocks as needed. And breathing here. Sometimes when our hamstrings are being really noisy, it's hard to remember to breathe. And feeling that pulling up with the thigh muscles, reaching the feet into the floor, long through the top of the head. And then pouring over that leg in the mount. And then we will lunge forward into Matsyendrasana, moving your left foot a little to the right, pull the right knee. And let's take a twist to the left. Inhale lots of space, exhale and twist. Then reaching back with the left arm, try not to let your right shoulder drop down. Lengthen the right side up, opening up through the front of the left shoulder and out the left fingertips. Too many body parts, too many rights and lefts. And then a big reach up and over with that left arm. And pulling that right leg down into Gomukhasana, squeezing in a little tighter, or whatever it is you are doing here. And we'll reach out wide, eagle pose with the left arm under this time, or you can do the holding the shoulders. So there's both a squeezing in feeling, but then from the inside out, you're pressing out. Breathing those arms up and out, and we will come forward and over. And come up. And then before we come up in that forward bend, let's disentangle our legs and sliding them out to Konasana. The straddle, the dragonfly, the big stretch from the inner thighs. Now we're squeezing outward instead of inward. And coming forward and over. Inhaling into the center of the body, exhale, pouring out. And then coming up. Let's bring those legs in and we'll expand up in the forward bend. And concave back, inhale and exhale. And then making our way up to standing, big front body. And around to Namaste and friends. And let's Utkatasana. We'll take the long ripple into Utkatasana. So we come up in that front body yawn. This is a little like doing the Namaskar in a way. And bending the knees, arching the back, reaching around with the arms. The arms come forward, a little tuck of the tailbone, and then flattening everything out into Utkatasana, the chair pose. Pulling back in the hinge of the hip joints. And releasing over. Concave back, folding over. Let's step back to the plank. Holding that plank. Long and flat against the ceiling. We're going to Asta Namaskar again, so if you want to come out of your plank sooner, that's where we're headed. And we'll set those knees down. Asta Namaskar, knees, chest, chin to our small cobra, or any means. Noise, just get there and lengthening down. Let's do that lifting over the legs again. Reaching long through both legs, and we'll lift a little upper body, but mostly right leg. Feeling that pull up and lengthening down. Left leg lengthening, lift. And lengthening down. Once more each side. Trying to feel through the just kind of general effort there. And what are you doing? The back of the thigh, the back crease of the hip joint, the gluteus maximus coming down. Left leg. And there's also a pulling up with the front of the thigh as well. That's what's trying to keep our legs straight instead of making it a bent knee version. And coming down. And let us peel ourselves back up to downward facing dog. Maybe a child's pose on the way. And then coming up and downward facing dog. So we're going to do the walking splits. Don't get worried. Up to the front of the mat. So that doesn't necessarily mean your back leg is going to be lifted high so that you're in a split. Just means that we're going to be standing on one leg, trying to lift our back leg, even if it's just like that, like 3 or 4 inches off the floor. Actually, why don't we do that downward facing dog for a moment? Just really keep it low. Just pick the leg up and see there's a lot of things you can feel. It doesn't necessarily need a height. Let's try the left leg there. All right, let's come down for a moment in child's pose. Wear out those hands and wrists. So we're going to be taking 3 steps forward. So when you take that first step, don't make it too big. It should not even quite reach the center of your mat, the horizontal center for the first step. So it'll still be kind of like downward facing dog, our first step forward. As we lift our right leg up. Pulling up with the back of the leg, 3-legged dog or downward facing dog splits. And then taking a step forward, but not too far forward. And we'll pull our left leg up. So we have just kind of a little bit more shallow dog than usual. And then next step about the half of the mat, or maybe a little past. Pulling that right leg up. So we're more like a standing split now, maybe using the hands under the blocks. And then last step up to the front of the mat. We're on our right leg as we pull that left leg. And let's take a Jiva squat, squeezing the left thigh behind the right, the left knee behind the right knee, squeezing in, kind of like Gomukhasana, standing up, stand back up to the standing split. And then we'll squeeze in Jiva squat again, and this time we're going to put the ball of the left foot down. So we're headed for dance of our body. So I'm in kind of like a squeezed in curtsy spot. I'm going to turn and face you. Maybe you can see a little better. And let's just come up here with our hands in namaste. So it's like a crossed over Utkatasana chair pose. Left leg pushing into the right, right leg presses back into the left. And we'll just keep it simple like that this time, and coming up to standing, left foot next to the right. Here we are at the front of our mat. Deep breath. And a big lift up, front body yawn. And come. Concave back, folding over. Through the vinyasa, any version, downward facing dog. Maybe with a child's pose along the way. And then we will walk forward, leading with our left leg. Let's lift the left leg up, pulling up with the back of the left thigh. And then taking a step, not too big, we're not even at the half point of the mat yet, as we pull our right leg up. So it's still kind of mostly downward facing dog like here. All right, and then the next step now gets a little more standing split leg, about the half point of the mat, or maybe a little bit in front of that half point line. Or you can use blocks under the hands. That left leg doesn't have to be very high. And then last step up to the front of the mat, pulling that right leg up, reaching down through the left leg. And let's jiva squat with kind of a hold here. We're fitting the right knee into the back of the left, squeezing the thighs. That right shin angles a little over to the left. Squeeze in the abdominal muscles. And then extending that right leg back up. And once more, jiva squat. And then we'll put the ball of the right foot down, sort of a diagonal back. All right, there we go. A little kickstand, and we're pressing the left thigh back into the right thigh and knee forward into the left, holding on in the center, coming up like an Utkatasana. Trying to level the hinge of the hip joints, a little pulling up in the lower abdomen, at the same time trying not to round the lower back. Kind of feels more like we're doing a concave back action, trying to arch up. And then we'll just squeeze ourselves up to standing, putting the right foot next to the left. Samastiti steadiness. And then let's add the twist to our dance of Parvati. So in theory, we're facing the front of the mat here, but I'm just going to face forward. And is that the best thing? No, I don't think that's the best thing to do. I'm going to face the end of the mat. I'm going to go over here to this end. All right, we're going to make a little production to get there now. Let's take a big front body yawn up. And it's dive. And then coming up on tippy fingers or the block, we're going to lift our left leg up into the air, standing split leg again. So maybe that's where your left leg is, a few inches above the floor, that's fine. Or maybe you can pull it up more. And we'll jiva squat. And then putting the ball of the left foot down. Squeeze the legs together, coming up in that namaste with the namaste hands for a moment to get steady. Finding your balance point, and then we'll twist to the right, wide arms. Even as we've got a pulling down, there's also a lifting up. And then we'll bend that left arm into the half namaste. So maybe your left elbow stays on the right thigh, maybe not, doesn't matter. Dance of Parvati. And squeezing ourselves up to standing. Inhale and exhale, samasthiti, steadiness. And big front body yawn. Diving over. And then coming up on tippy fingers, maybe the blocks, and we'll lift our right leg up. So it doesn't have to go high. Maybe that's where the right leg is, a few inches above the floor, or else keep pulling. So there's muscular work bringing that right leg up. It's not just about how flexible is your left leg. And then Jiva squat, putting the ball of the right foot down, squeezing the legs together, hinging in the hips. We come up with Namaste, getting centered, and then twisting to the left, wide arms. And so we're both trying to pull down and back and lift forward and up through the top of the head at the same time, finding the balance there. And then bending the right arm into the half moon stand. Maybe that right elbow's on the left thigh. Maybe it comes up. And then squeezing ourselves up to standing. Deep breath. And let's just turn to the horizontal center side of our mat and come into the elephant rider. Rotate those feet out, about 45 degrees, bend the knees, coming over. Oh, pressing those legs out, unsqueezing. Ah. All right, and let's come up to standing three-pointed star, rotating those legs into the hip joints. And then we'll reach the arms out to parallel, turning the feet to parallel. And then finding your right leg. So I'm not being the right left mirror here, though we're doing each leg, so it doesn't matter that much. Right leg rotates out 90 degrees into the warrior two, inner thigh to inner knee to center of the foot. Everything wide and open. Almost dancing warrior. Bringing the right arm up, sink the right sitting bone down. As you reach to the left, pull that right inner thigh more forward to the right. And then just reaching the arms long and parallel again. Straightening up the right leg. Turning the feet to parallel. Deep breath. Left side. Rotating the left leg out 90 degrees. Into the warrior two, leading from the root of the thigh along the inner thigh, around, wrapping the knee around to the center of the foot. So we're making our lunge not with our knee joint, but more with the hip joints. And then try to anchor your lunge as we side bend dancing warrior, bringing that left arm up and away, pulling the left inner thigh more forward. So we don't actually need to lunge more deeply, but we may be doing an action feeling like we're lunging more deeply to oppose that pull back to the right. And then reaching out wide and flat with the arms again for a moment. Straighten up that left feet to parallel. Reach out wide. Let's do a little front body yawn here with a wide parallel. And then reassembling in the center. Ah. Well, maybe your clock there at home has more time than our clocks here. They're almost out of time here. Oh, well, let's come down to the floor then. I'm about to go off and waste even more time in idle chit chat. Let's come down to the floor and let's go back to where we started with that block under the sacrum. Or you could be flat on the floor in Shavasana. That'll also be an opening of the hip joints, sliding the legs out. And maybe this time, instead of doing the more usual, bring the legs into parallel, maybe taking them very deliberately wide to the side, as much as they'll go. Sometimes they don't actually go very wide in this position with the block there. And you're going for just a little more opening. We had lots of folding forward and lots of squeezing in with the dance of our body and the walking splits and all. Maybe going for something different. Inhaling into the front of the body, exhaling out, pouring into the floor. Even if you've got body parts not touching the floor, they can still be drawn to the floor. They can be resting on that cushion of air between the backs of the legs and the spine and the floor. If you have more time, you can stay here longer. You can take a lying flat Shavasana, maybe do a couple more little stretches like figure four, happy baby down here. But if you need to move on to the rest of the day, we're bending the knees, lifting up off the block, rolling down, Just pause for 1 or 2 breaths, letting that back melt into the floor. And then gently making your way up to sitting. Sitting in any comfortable position with a long and spacious spine. Taking another moment or two, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for that routine today. That was just right.